Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? If you're Sean Payton, you're looking at this right now and you're going, okay, the guy who we committed to being our starting quarterback is done. So you either bring in someone from the outside or you stick with the guys you have in-house. Who you have in-house are Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, and Ian Book. A lot of people have looked at guys from the outside, such as Drew Brees, who obviously is not going to come out of retirement. Some people have mentioned to me Phillip Rivers, who's not going to come out of retirement. Keep in mind also how much it takes physically to get prepared for a season. And if you didn't spend your offseason preparing your body, you can't just come off the street and play quarterback. The one guy that would actually make sense to me is Cam Newton. A lot of people have mentioned that. Cam went through an entire training camp in a preseason and then lost the job to Mac Jones, and New England decided to release him instead of keeping him around. I have talked for many years here about what is very obvious, which is Sean Payton's affinity for guys from the NFC South, because he sees them. Sees them twice a year. He sees them on film. They game plan against them. He coaches against them. And you know the list. It's very long, from Curtis Lofton and A.J. Klein and Jameis Winston to Devontae Freeman and Brian Poole. And I mean, I feel like we talk about this all the time. The amount of players from the division that Sean Payton has signed at different times for various roles within the Saints organization. Cam would fit under that. Now, you would fundamentally change your offense if Cam Newton were your quarterback, as opposed to Drew Brees or Jameis Winston or Trevor Siemian. Cam adds a different dynamic. Now, there's many of you sitting there going, isn't that what Taysom Hill is? Yes, precisely. So that's why I would say, all right, if Sean's leaning toward Taysom, Cam is a more experienced version, a better starting quarterback. Yes, later in his career, yes, has been banged up, but there is also an undeniable truth about Cam Newton's physicality, which adds a dimension that defenses have to account for. It ended badly in Carolina. His 1 year in New England didn't go great. I know that. How would it be with a veteran, experienced play caller like Sean Payton? I would be curious to see that. But if Sean isn't down with that, or like the comment that Sean Payton made was, if I don't know if we have this, but where he essentially said that it's hard to get someone up to speed in such short time, which makes sense. If you brought in a quarterback from the outside, how do you get them up to speed with your personnel, timing with the receivers, terminology, play call, how you function within an offense? It's a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult ask. So I do understand that point. If this were July, if this were beginning of August, I would understand, and you had a quarterback get injured, I would understand bringing in someone from the outside. So basically what it comes down to, if you're Sean Payton, is, are you a believer in Taysom Hill or Trevor Siemian? I think we all intuitively know that answer. The answer is Taysom Hill. Sean Payton is committed to making Taysom Hill a quarterback, or was. He was committed to giving Taysom Hill an opportunity to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, you know how I feel about my opinion is very different from Sean Payton's reality. My opinion is I don't think Taysom Hill will ever be a championship caliber quarterback in the NFL. His deep ball is far too inaccurate. I think it is very clear. His short intermediate stuff, he certainly has good arm talent, and I love the dimension of him being able to run. But if you're not going to use that, him running the football to your advantage, then there's very little advantage, because he's not an elite quarterback with accuracy or arm talent or any of that stuff. So there's not a lot that tells you that Taysom can be elite. But Sean Payton is committed to that. Taysom Hill got so many of the starter reps during preseason games. It's pretty clear to me that if Taysom Hill clears the concussion protocol, which was reported on Football Night in America by Mike Florio that he's expected to, that Taysom Hill is going to prepare this week to be your starting quarterback against the Falcons on Sunday at noon in the Dome. Taysom Hill did play the Falcons twice last year and then went 2-0 in those games. So that feels very obvious to me, that Taysom will be the starter and Trevor Siemian will go back to his role as the backup. And if Taysom struggles, then you could start Trevor Siemian and move Taysom Hill back into his Taysom Hill role. The other part of the conversation that many people are obviously going to ask is, well, in an offense where you're already lacking a lot of weapons, can you really afford to have a backup quarterback and remove a weapon like Taysom Hill in his sort of, versatile role? And I think that's very fair. And for me, I think I would prefer to have, a guy like Trevor Siemian and keep Taysom Hill in that role. I don't think that's going to happen. And I also don't think that Trevor Siemian is a viable option to be a championship caliber quarterback. I don't believe Taysom Hill is either. But I think with either of those guys, this team is going to win enough games to be a playoff team. Because we have rolled through this schedule, and we did this all throughout the offseason. And the thing that I said over and over and over again was they needed to get to their bye above 500. If the Saints got to their bye above 500, I felt like they could finish the season the rest of the way above 500 and be hopefully at either 9-8 or 10-7. And hopefully that would be enough to get them in the playoffs. And so when you look at what's ahead for this team, they still have 2 games against Atlanta. They've got a game against Carolina, and I know Carolina beat them already, but I believe that New Orleans is a better team than Carolina. We've kind of seen that manifest. There are obviously tough games. You still have to play Tampa again. You've got to play Buffalo. You've got to play Dallas, although Buffalo and Dallas are both in the Dome. You have to go to Tennessee in a couple of weeks, although it looks like you're going to go to Tennessee without Derrick Henry. There are also winnable games. You have the Jets and you have the Dolphins, as I mentioned. You got a game against Carolina and 2 games against the Falcons. I believe this team, which is sitting there right now at 5 wins, at 5-2, I believe they can realistically get to 10-7. So, I mean, if you go 5-5 the rest of the way, you're at 10-7. If you're a 500 team, I believe they could be a game above that. So if you go 6-4 the rest of the way, you're at an 11-win team. You're in the postseason, which I think will happen for this team. And I believe they're going to keep getting better because they're going to keep getting healthier. You're going to get Michael Thomas back at some point throughout the season, which will only assist this offense and whoever the backup quarterback is. There are obviously challenging games. I mentioned going to Tennessee. You have to go to Philadelphia, so back-to-back road games in what will likely be weather games. Buffalo and Dallas are both playing really well this year. You have to go to the Jets and to the Bucs, which I think the game in New York would be winnable against the Jets, although they had a nice win yesterday against the Bengals. You have a game against Miami at home, which should win. You should win a game against Carolina at home, which you should win, in the game in Atlanta, which is certainly winnable against that team. So I guess my bigger point with this is I think this New Orleans Saints team, with Jameis Winston continuing to improve and the Saints continuing to get healthy, they had the possibility to have a much higher ceiling where they get in the postseason, they're playing great football, maybe they could compete for a championship. Without Jameis Winston, with either Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill, I believe that ceiling is much, much lower. Although I do still believe, because of where they are positioned right now, they can be a playoff team. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.